And now, last presentation, Professor Helmut Loos, University of Leipzig, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm pleased to be here, and my topic is a little bit different from the others. We are talking so much about the modernist of Čiurlionis and what he's doing on very modern composition. My question is, where is he coming from? What were his roots, and what was the way he did? So please allow me to make a little historical review of his life, of his part of life, with some illustration. You all know where he's coming from the south of Lithuania, and he had in Plunge this Druskininkai was a wonderful place at that time too. It was a very famous spa resort, and noblemen from everywhere and from Lithuania came there and had good time and was very well. We know that Čiurlionis lived there and grew up, and he grew up in the region of the church. It was not yet this church. It was built a little bit later, but we know his father was a cantor, and he was directly opposite to church music. That was very clear. And as it was in a Christian environment, the noblemen came and they took these gifted young people and put them to some things. And so we had this Josef Markiewicz, the doctor, and he gave him to the nobleman Mikolaj Oginsky. He had his wonderful menu house in Plunge, where we saw it was called the Versailles of Samogic. Yeah, very, very gifted thing. He was very close friend to Čiurlionis. So we see that it is built monument today for this friendship between the nobleman and the composer. And Oginsky had a music school there. We know that Čiurlionis learned at that school 4 years, and it was a close connection. Then we know he went to Warsaw. He was close to Zygmunt Noskowski, his teacher, and he was very good or important for him this time. And then he went from Warsaw after some time to Germany, to Leipzig, where I'm coming from. He studied with Reinecke and Jaderson. And when we look what he got to see in Leipzig, then there was the Gewandhaus Orchestra in the new concert hall. It was just built 20 years ago, very, very fine temple, musical temple. And there were performances in the opera house. It's modern, new opera house at that time. He was at St. Thomas Church, St. Thomas Choir he heard. You see on the left upside there, this is Thomas Church 30 years earlier when Čiurlionis came. But when he came, it was already just renovated in a very, very, very beautiful way like it is today. And Bach was sure a secured name. And here is the people, the composers with Reinecke at his last time. And we know that there is anywhere is Čiurlionis, and we always were thinking, where is Čiurlionis at this picture? And I think here he is. But I had discussions with the colleagues, and they said, no, it's another one. But I don't know anyone else. I think this is Čiurlionis. Maybe, but only just a joke. Another one. Who? Landsberg said he is. So we won't. We don't know. We know then he went to painting, and he was a pupil of Jan Kautsig. He was a painter he learned in the realism of the Munich school, and as you see what they were painting, very realistic. And what Čiurlionis was painting at that time is these bridges, for example. Then he had another teacher, a very important teacher, Kazimierz Strawowski. He was much more modern than the other one and painted in Warsaw. At first, he like a little bit like Arnaud Viau, but especially he was decorating paintings with fantastic subjects from fairy tales, history and legends, and then you see this symbolist fantastic painting, Vision. And you see it's a little bit like Annunciation. It is called Annunciation, and we are thinking of Mary and the Archangel, Annunciation, the Christian, but it's not a Christian one in that way. It's mystical. Yes, that's not very wonderful, but Strawowski was a very close follower of Helena Blavatsky and propagated theosophy of his soul. And if I did understand right, here this was the point where Čiurlionis came in close connection to these theosophy, and he was then very attached from it, and he painted this kind of strong affected to these ideas, mythological things we know from his paintings, what he did. And he is always close made with synesthetic things, but I only see one picture as very close to music. It's the fugue he painted in 1908. And it's not very astonished, because fugue was something he came from. When we look at his first compositions, the starting point was clearly evidenced by his church music. In addition to piano compositions and a few organ works, these comprise a large part of his early works, in which the artist learned his craft and developed his skills. In his piano works, after numerous canons, Čiurlionis devoted himself intensively to fugue composition and also employed this in his early church music works. This was an essential part of his teaching at the Warsaw Music School from 1894 to 1899. His teacher, Zygmunt Noskowski, had led a composition class there since 1888. Noskowski had studied in Berlin with Friedrich Kiel, which greatly stimulated his enthusiasm for counterpoint in his pedagogical work. Stefan Keim calls Noskowski a guardian of the Warsaw Kiel tradition. Some church music pieces have been edited or in part reconstructed since the 1980s. There are 6 settings of 5 Latin texts of the Ordinarium Missi and 2 psalm settings in Polish available. At the beginning stands a Kyrie for 3-part choir, a 36-measure figure fugue in A minor. The 13-note fugue theme in 3 measures consists in a descending fifths following a diminished arpeggio from F prime to G sharp, that is, as shortened dominant 7th chord with the leading notes to dominant and tonic, as known from many Baroque models. Ta 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 ta. We know all this. So it's very traditional. The little fugue proves itself a proper school experience exercise according to the traditional rules. So you see, there is not so much on the contrapuntal things. from sketches of a requiem, Adagmilas Kubilinuas completed a short passage for three-part choir, the opening text, Requiem aeternam dona eis rec domine, a three-part fugue of 52 parts, but I go further to the Gloria for mixed choir. A four-voice contains in 60 measures only the real exposition and two developments with two theme entries each. What for me is very important of this fugue, you see here a very thing of this theme. Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo. What is it? It's a rhetorical theme. It comes from the text. Gloria, Gloria, acclamation. Gloria, Gloria. And now it goes up in excelsis Deo. Traditional rhetorical figure of anabasis in excelsis Deo. It's not typical for a fugue, but it shows that Čiurlionis is close with the old tradition of music, that music is not a mathematical thing, it's a language. We always have our music between mathematics and language. Yeah, and there's rhetoric. And here you can see he is dealing with these rhetorical things, even in a fugue. We look further, Agnus and so on, we can see this, we can skip this. You see that here is theme and counterpoint in this. And then he finished his studies in Warsaw with such things. At the end of his Warsaw time, he had very special composition. You all know this cantata De Profundis for mixed choir and orchestra. His first composition with orchestra, and this also integrated a short fugue in the middle section. We look at this cantata De Profundis a little bit more. The text is in three parts. I give you this thing. The A section begins with a 6-bar orchestral introduction in bar form. The orchestral introduction executes a clear movement. Two tentative attempts fail. The third escalates into a great cry, dissonant, and ending with a suspension in the dominant 7th chord. Then the choir begins its lament, marked by the flute of misfortune, melodically following the descending line of the orchestral introduction in phrases of 1 and 2 bars. So here you can see this whole piece, and the beginning is this, what I said to you. Music, hey. Čiurlionis applies an almost motet-like compositional style in the framing sections of his cantata, considering each text section individually and granting an approximately text-related setting. First and foremost, he considers the basic effect of the text. A direct reference to the words in the sense of rhetorical figures is only discernible in one passage, which acclamation and tone painting. The choir is conducted largely homophonically with only a short polyphonic passage. The central section, you see in the middle, of 30 measures sets verse 3 to the text to the music. In terms of composition, it forms a clear contrast to the framing sections. The first part contains a short four-voice fugue with two themes. In stark contrast to this contrapuntal section, the second part of the middle section unfolds over a long pedal point, a dramatic text declamation that, with acclamations and crescendo, achieves a nearly theatrical effect. This followed by a reprise of the opening section, now intensified and heightened in emphasis. So the middle part. In his final thesis of his studies in Warsaw, Čiurlionis demonstrates mastery of a wide spectrum of compositional techniques worthy a masterpiece. Not only the diversity of means, but also the successful formal order and the cohesion provided by the return of the first theme reveals a strong creative ability in the young composers. From his time studying in Leipzig, two church music pieces survive, a Sanctus and a Sanctus and a Kyrie. The Sanctus is freely and massively handled formal and cultural means, so it's not so interesting for us now. More interesting is the Kyrie he wrote in Leipzig. Čiurlionis demonstrates his advanced skill in fugue composition. The somewhat longer fugue theme of 3 bars in C minor is closely combined with a canto subject. After the exposition and first development, there follows a second development and so on. Before I give you here all this in text, I will show you it with my annotated notes, and you can follow what's happening there, theme, counterpoint at the beginning. So let's listen to it. It's better than to describe it. This is very fine, it's regular, like it must be. Now, the development and chords together. Theme and counterpoint in all four voices. Close together. And now another thing. Development, first the theme, and then look what's happening with the counterpoint. Suddenly counterpoint is a known theme and is through the four voices. Comes a very mystical moment. The counterpoint is done, but the theme comes in all four voices, homophonically. It's a noema. Now it goes on and on. But it's a very individual dealing with this type of fugue composing. And you see that the fugue at that time was a mystical thing. It's a tradition from the 19th century, from Robert Schumann and others. Fugue is very mystical, and he makes it still more mystical. So when we compare these two things, the first fugue, you see it's not so much done in this fugue, and this last one, there you can see the progress Čiurlionis made in the contrapuntal composing, how dense it is, how individual he deals here with this thing. So this was his music at that time in Leipzig still, but then he got other things. Interest in contrapuntal composition reviewed anew in the 9th century and steadily increased in waves. The fugue was attributed an almost mystical effect as intended by Robert Schumann in his final chorus of the scene from Goethe's Faust. Above all, the edition of the complete works of Bach between 1815 and 1899, sparkly, lively discussion about the work of the Thomaskantor, which was taken up not only in German Confederation and in German Empire, but also especially in the Russian Empire. In Poland, which together with Lithuania was under Russian rule, these considerations were actively taken up and initially mainly discussed in music journals. Bach's piano works found entrance into music education, and in 1858, the D minor concerto for 3 pianos was performed in Warsaw. The plan to perform the St. Matthew Passion in 1866 apparently was not carried out, but Bach's keyboard music was increasingly performed in concerts from 1890s, and the Warsaw Philharmonic, founded in 91, brought performances of concerts and oratorios. A musician and critic as influential as Jan Kleczynski already called Bach's works genius riddles that testify to enormous knowledge from mastery of form to the highest degree in 1875. A conviction that especially found resonance at the Warsaw Conservatory. Felix Jasinski wrote in the Polish literature and art magazine Chimera in 1901, Bach is the Jupiter of Olympus, an extraordinary, immortal giant. He is the source of all sources. At least in Polish modernism, there was thus a great of mythologizing of Bach as in Germany at that time. We know this from Germany, I'm sure. The tendency towards esotericism and national myth also promoted de-Christianization in Poland, in Polish and Lithuanian modernity. De-Christianization. The three phases of Čiurlionis choral music precisely follow this course. From church music to national romanticism to national songs for male choir based on texts by Sofia Kymantaite. We all know the role of men's choirs in this movement in Germany and everywhere in Europe. The latter two correspond to his engagement as choir director in Lithuanian Self-Help Association in Warsaw and the Vilnius Krankels here in Vilnius. The idea of social progress, however, demanded from a composer above all engagement with purely instrumental music, which, according to the Romantic understanding of music, was accorded to the highest significance, especially symphonic music. Noskowski, in particular, advocated this weighting vigorously. Most discussions of this topic concentrate on the symphony, thus expressing a specifically German understanding. In the dispute between conservatives and new German composers, the programmatic aspects of symphonic poem were suspect as compared to pure absolute music of the symphony, so that they were regarded two separate genres. In the countries of Eastern Europe, it was so important to convey a message, especially a patriotic one, in symphonic music, that no distinction was made between these genres. These, where patriotism was celebrated mainly in the per aspera dramaturgy, there were also individual approaches, especially symphonic landscape pictures of the homeland. An outstanding example is Zygmunt Noskowski's symphonic poem Steppe from 1896. From here, it is not a long way to Čiurlionis and his two symphonic poems, Miške and Jura. Stefan Keim has subjected these two symphonic landscape pictures to a fundamental analysis of cultural transfer in the context of German and Polish symphonic tradition. In the following, the work are also considered from the perspective of the composer's individual development with an emphasis on theme formation and polyphonic work. So let's look in Miške. I'm thankful of the things we had already to see this theme of Miške. This piece was composed from Čiurlionis between his studies in Warsaw and Leipzig. The entire symphonic poem develops out of two four-note head motifs. The first arises from a harsh forest murmur ascending with the fifth and third, as we heard already today. So I can skip this, I think. So, da-di-da-di, we know this. The second descends with the fourth and the second. It's quite different and slightly varied as B line. The head motifs are spun out with figurations that gradually become independent in the further course. Head motif A, initially with synchronously descending chromatic lines. Then following the head motif with a flowing ornamental line. A very different atmosphere. Head motif A itself appears in manifold variations so that the boundaries between motive and continuation become blurred. The head motif B is continued directly with an ornamental line out of which various motifs emerge. And in a variety of ways develops a strong independent life. In the middle section of the work, motifs B and A combine into a theme A-B. Certainly one theme. Čiurlionis shows how densely he can process the various motifs and combinations at the end of the central section, where he explicitly recapitulates the theme formed from the two head motifs and combines continuation figurations from both sources. You can't hear this, you can only look at my colors. The combination of head motifs and their developments in such a compact space results in a polyphonic structure of enormous density, which could scarcely be achieved without solid training in contrapuntal arts. Just as multiple new formations arise from the root of the head motifs, this tensile can also be understood as a thicket, which the composer clearly indicates in his reference to the forest theme. And here you see how it is the formal structure. And you see you have three parts, and it's always very difficult to combine it with traditional forms we know, because he is very free with this, and you can see this in the different themes, how it is here done in this piece. The symphonic tradition that Čiurlionis adopts traces back to Franz Liszt and his compositional technique of thematic transformation, which he developed further from motive thematic work in his content-based compositions, and which continued in the French theme cyclique. That for Liszt it was more important for music to be a language than to be a form. We all know this was his thing. In German musicology, he was a long time a bad composer because of this reason. So we go further to Čiurlionis' second symphonic poem, Jura, composed after his time in Leipzig. It shows a further development of his compositional technique. This time he relies on a head motif, I call it here K, from which a thematic complex of variants develops. In contrast to the ascending motif A in Mischke, he head's motif Jura descends after a leap of a third upwards by a fifth and a second, and thus depicts a wave. So you see, this is old rhetorical tradition. the wood, the plants go to the light, go up. Ya, da, da, dee, yeah? Water may be as high as it wants, it always falls down. Yes? Da, dee, da, dee. So it's very, very simple, but this is musical language. It's a rhetorical tradition you see here in these things. Numerous variants develop from this, always with the same upward and downward curves, but rarely identical. Their kinship is promoted by instrumentation, which starts in the low strings, is enriched by wind instruments, is then continued and taken over by them. They are strung together in a loose sequence, along with independent accompanying figures, after the presentation of the head motif, which is then presented in grand style. Here is the beginning, and I give you now this beginning of Jura. It's always the theme, yes, sure. And now this theme comes in accompanying figures. This continual transformation of themes permeates the entire piece with only a few literal repetitions. The head motif itself forms a dramatic climax in the middle of the piece, then ebbs away and is only played again in a very rudimentary manner at the end. Here is the climax of its dense contrapuntal processing of the head motif. You can see how he is now putting together this, what he has composed until. Even in the next part, it's a short piece of this theme. This was the part A. Of a completely different character is the second thematic complex. It consists of a continuously descending line in seconds spanning more than an octave. It is usually paired with a distinctive rhythm, though this sometimes appears independently. Thus, the drama of the first thematic complex is contrasted with a calmer second one. Both are continually enriched by independent accompanying figures that color the soundscape. You will hear it just after the initial appearance of the second theme, an accompaniment motif connects with the figure from the first thematic complex, here the corresponding passage. And we can hear this second theme in this part. The form overview offers a rough indication of where the thematic complexes and accompanying figures are distributed throughout the piece. Jura, written after his studies in Leipzig, reveals, beside his free late romantic counterpoint, a distinct engagement with the classic romantic symphonic tradition in a wholly individual manner. The combination of such different compositional techniques, counterpoint, motivic thematic development, and thematic transformation was widespread in Europe around 1900. The brief journey Čiurlionis took from simple canons to fugues to such complex symphony writing is astonishing and testament to high artistry. It's the ground where he is composing on, and it is the ground for his modern experiments he made. But this is really a big way he went, and it's to the way from a Christian ground to Christianized society. It is really, look at his pictures, you never find any, or one or two religious pictures I know from him, one Maria and so on, and everything else is some mystical idea, theories. And so he very short made the way our music itself made in 200 years from a Christian-based ground to an unchristianated, anti-Christian own religion. That's my thing. It became an art religion, and the composer became the god of this religion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Labai ačiū. Danke schön. Maybe questions?
Professor Loos, and you do understand or no my question in Lithuanian. Pirmiausia, dėkoju.
Gal išversti?
Jo, tuoj. Jo, išverskit. Pirmiausia, labai dėkoju ir atkreipkite dėmesį į jo varlytę. Ar atpažįstate, kas yra varlytai, koks paveikslas Čiurlionio? Ar atpažįstate šitą ženklą?
Arčiau pridėti.
Thank you. Ja. Ar verčiate? Gerai. Tikrai labai ačiū. Pirmiausia, kad jūs atkreipėte dėmesį į Čiurlionio retoriką. Mes neturim tyrimo apie Čiurlionio retoriką. Ne tik nojoma, bet ir paskui katabasis. Baigėsi amen. Katabasis, nuostabi retorinė figūra. Žodžiu, aš žiūriu į Audrutę, turbūt jai reiks užsimti ir padaryti tyrimą apie Čiurlionio retoriką. Yra būtina. Ir ačiū, kad jūs atkreipėte dėmesį. Mes dar neturim tyrimo. Nes laikėm, kad niekas čia nesidomi Čiurlionis, nesidomi retorika. Visiškai retoriška kompozicija. Antra, aš noriu pasakyti visgi dėl miške formos. Aš ne savo. Čia yra profesorius Ambrazas, jūs tikrai pažįstat Ambrazas. Jisai tyrinėjo miške formą. Jisai rėmėsi ir Landsbergiu, ir visgi jo atsakymas, kad tai forma yra simetrinė, koncentrinė. Yra pagrindinė partija, jungiamoji, šalutinė, baigiamoji, o tada viskas atgal eina. Tai yra visiškai romantinės formos tradicija, absoliučiai. Landsbergis and Ambrazas investigation of shape of miške, visiškai koncentrinė forma. Čia yra straipsnis, netgi jeigu norit, muzikologijos pirmas tomas prasideda šitų tyrimą. O apie jūrą formą, tai labai gerai Hari žino, o aš ją vadinu biomorfinę. Kodėl? Nes ten tikrai labai sunku skirti Bet yra bangos kyla, kyla, kyla ir užkyla didžioji banga, kurią balsys iškirpo. Balsys iškirpo 7. Jūs analizavot balsio redakciją, kurioje ir nematau vargonų. Ir kaip tik Haris dabar rekonstravo Čiurlionio redakciją, kuri yra... Čiurlionio redakcija yra 45 minutės, o balsio 30. O kodėl jis tą padarė? 56 metais norėjo atlikti Jūrą ir labai bijojo formalizmo, nes buvo baisus Čiurlionio puolimas. Iki to, kad sunaikinti paveikslus, jį paskelbė formalistų. Ir netgi literatūrinė gazeta Maskvoje ėjo straipsniai, jie buvo perspausdinti pas mus. Ir buvo baisus dalykas, dėl ko dingo laiškai 4-6 metų. Kodėl nėra laiškų Čiurlionio 4-6 metų, ar ne? Ponui Radislavui klausiu. O todėl, kad seserys išėmė, jie buvo labai radikalūs. Tai yra modernizmas, Čiurlionio lūžis. Ir seserys iš baimės visus tos laiškus išėmė, ar ne? Ponas Radislavai, nėra šitų laiškų iš viso. Mes su ponu Andrijausku nujamčiau, kur jie yra. Ir jeigu dar galima bus prie jų prieiti, važiuosim ieškoti. Čia visa ta istorija yra prašyta. Taip, kad jūs nagrinėjot Jūrą balsio redakciją, nes ta banga kaip kyla, užkyla ir jinai slopsta. O Čiurlionio tikro Jūro yra su vargonais didžiulė banga, biomorfinė. Tai aš atsiprašau, bet tikrai labai dėkoju profesoriui Loosui, kuris yra tikrai didžiulis mūsų draugas ir labai įdomių dalykų atskleidė. Tai labai ačiū. Ačiū.
Gražina, yra tik tai dabar įrašas padarytas šitos originalios redakcijos.
Atliko Berlyno filharmonijoje, ar ne?
Taip.
2 rugsėjo.
Ir išleido Deutsche Grammofonas dabar.
Jau net. 2 rugsėjo buvo atlikta Berlyno filharmonija, kas yra didžiausia salė turbūt Europoje, o gal net ir pasaulyje. Jeigu kas buvo, tai žinot, ką tai reiškia. Buvo atlikta šita Jūra pagal naują redakciją. Čia Haris labai nusipilnė. Ir buvo nuostabus vėlgi bisas, jeigu kas Vilniui buvot, tai baigėsi bisu. Vilniui tai uždainavo Mirga Bėkit bairelį, paskui įsijungė orkestras dainuodamas polifoniškai, o tada visa salė, galite įsivaizduoti. Tai buvo mišios, aš dar nemačiau tokio biso. O po to, kai išėjo visi po koncerto, visi puolė apsikabinti. Aš žinau, Zubovas atbėgo ir mane apsikabina kažkodėl, nežinau. O tarp kitko, Berlyne taip pat bisas buvo įspūdingas, lygiai taip pat prancūzų orkestras dainavo irgi, aš dainavau visas dainelės, ar ne? Čiurlionio harmonizuotą dainą prancūzai dainavo iš pradžių niūniavo, o po to jau su žodžiais. Tai irgi visas nesuvokiamas Europoje. Tai atsiprašau, aš labai daug kalbėjau, nenoriu, bet aš manau, kad ir kiti gali pasakyti kažką. Štefana, jūs tikrai galite kažką pasakyti.
Bus paskaita.
Well, I think I've already published my text about Jura, which Helmut Loos has mentioned. For me, it is the most interesting thing, since I'm a researcher in sonata form. It is his very individual way in which he transforms the sonata. Since after this big climax, which Helmut Loos has shown us, there is still a very long time the music is going on with a completely new theme, which is introduced only in the recapitulation, and this is something completely new in this tradition. Thank you.
I know this discussion about form from German musicology in the 20th century. At the beginning of 20th century, Gustav Mahler said, all programs are damaged. I leave them. And he said, my symphonies have no programs. They had, sure, we know. But he wanted to be in Vienna. In Vienna was Eduard Hanslick, and he was a very progressive teacher of absolute music. And so in 20th century, absolute music became the only worth to be art music. Everything else was functional, And functional was bad because only what the composer does, as an absolute composer, independent from everything, was composing. It's an idea. It's horrible. You can show everywhere that it deals together. It comes together in any way. But this was in musicology really, if a piece has the form of a symphonic sonata form, it's a good piece. If not, it's a bad piece. You can read this at 1999 Cowell program music. He really distinct. The extreme of program music is Beethoven Pastorale. Sure, that must be a good piece. It's Beethoven. Yes, but everything going further and is bad piece. And this goes so far that there were people, symphonic poem. This is symphonic form. Yes, it's okay. This no symphonic form. Perhaps it was a combined symphonic form. The single sets put it in one together, like Liszt did, and so on. No, that's no good music because form is everything. Even in Wagner's music, his operas, they were looking for absolute musical form to see, yes, it's good music. Sorry. But this was a device. You couldn't say anything against, no, horrible. Karl Dahlos was one of the leading figures of this direction. And he was a pope in German musicology. And today we say, what he was writing about history was a master narrative. It was a nice story, but has nothing to do with real composing and real music history. The young people never realize what I'm shouting against. Well, it's normal, what you say, it's normal. They don't know this old device. We're all standing beyond. And if you didn't say this, you was an idiot. In Austria, it was different. There were Austrian musicologists. They always were working on music rhetoric things. My good friend Helmut Loos is one of the fighters for this. And German colleagues say, oh, okay. It's not real important. And this is failing the reality, musical things. Composers did other things, and you can't reduce them of form and mathematics. They have many languages, many rhetorical things in their music, because we understand the music. And we have in Germany a direction. They deny it totally, and you can see nobody anymore understands music of Darmstadt avant-garde. Mathematics. Nobody cares. Sorry.
Thank you.
Comment. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very interesting. I just want to defend Čiurlionis against calling him anti-Christian, because there was an article by an Italian scholar, Intervenio, I think his name is. He said that Čiurlionis' interest in theosophy was rather short-lived, and he never took part in any society, contrary to Scriabin, who was an active member of the Theosophical Society of Blavatsky. And we should not forget that Čiurlionis was married in the church in 1909 with Sophia, and he had to go for communion, and even though he didn't want to go for communion, he did in a way, because he went through it in St. Petersburg with a priest. And also I just want to ask a rhetorical question, how a person with that background, being a son of a church organist, who studied music, who studied piano with Bach's Little Prelude, who spent 1 year in Leipzig, who composed this wonderful church music with the Bach quality in the tonality of C minor, of Bach's tonality. How can he be called theosophist? This is not possible for me.
Everything is possible because a composer composes what comes to play with his plate. So he composes things he wants to be played. So he composes something for the people, they do it. If you look at Brahms' Deutsches Requiem, it was composed for the liberal people of Vienna at that time. It's a total anti-Roman Requiem, German Requiem, not Roman. It's not Catholic. Oh my goodness. Catholic is, the Pope, oh yes, we know. And he wasn't so religious, Brahms himself, but he did. This was normal at times before Brahms. Everybody composed for the king, then there came revolution, they composed for a revolution, and then came again a king, Napoleon, and they composed for Napoleon. No problem for a composer of 1800. But now in 19th century, composers became not anymore musicians, but prophets. And a prophet can only do what is in his own soul. And so he can compose what he is very deeply convinced of. But it isn't real. It isn't real. But because he is composing for people, he wants to be played and so on. And so he really, you can't take his piece one-to-one to the person. And the old tradition you can see with Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn composed for the Protestant Church, Elias, Paulus, and so on. He composed for Catholic Church in Brussels, and he composed for the progressive artists, Künstlerfeier. Totally different social directions. But he was a composer, and he was not any different. He composed for the people he knew, and he said, yes, I can do for you. So the Catholic thing was very simple for choir, because the choir was not very good. So we know it's different from Elias and so on. But this you have to take in account, that the composer is standing in society. And this idea from the absolute genius, or original genius, he's very alone without any people, is an idea, a horrible idea. And all these things we are thinking about, where does he come from? And he is a plagiator. Plagiator, this is one horrible thing. Why? Every composer composes like the people before. If you take Mendelssohn, he composed like Bach, he composed like Cherubini, he composed like every thing. This was the old tradition of imitatio auctoris. If I want to honor the tradition, I compose like them, I show them, oh yes, it's fine. And then they develop further. If you are an original genie, it's important. You make your rules yourself. So important to take anything from anyone else. So Wagner never did. Because he begins only with Fliegende Holländer, Flying Dutchman. But it's not true. What he composed before was like Beethoven, symphony like Beethoven, traditional like Beethoven. He composed operas like Weber, like Rossini, like Meyerbeer. He learned it the same way. But Mendelssohn is, oh no, he is an eclecticist. Wagner is an original genie. I don't understand how you can do that. I thought.